After World War II ended in 1945, two big countries came out as world leaders. One was the United States, the other was the Soviet Union. They had helped win the war, but they had very different ideas about how countries should be run. The United States believed in democracy. In a democracy, people choose their leaders and have freedoms like speech and religion. The Soviet Union was a communist country. In communism, the government controls most things, and people have fewer freedoms. Even though they had been allies in the war, the United States and the Soviet Union did not trust each other. They became rivals. This was the start of the Cold War. It was called cold because the two sides did not fight each other directly. Instead, they used spies, secret plans, and supported different sides in other countries' wars. They also raced to build more powerful weapons, including nuclear bombs. After World War II, the Soviet Union took control of many countries in Eastern Europe. These countries became communist too. The United States was worried about communism spreading around the world, so it tried to stop it. One way the U.S. did this was by helping countries stay free with money and supplies. This was called the Marshall Plan. It helped rebuild countries like France, Germany, and Italy. In 1949, the United States and other Western countries formed a group called NATO. It stood for North Atlantic Treaty Organization. They promised to protect each other if they were attacked. The Soviet Union made its own group called the Warsaw Pact. The world was now split into two sides. In Germany, things got tense. After the war, Germany had been split into East and West. The East was controlled by the Soviet Union. The West was helped by the U.S. and its allies. The capital city, Berlin, was also split, even though it was deep inside East Germany. In 1948, the Soviet Union tried to block supplies from reaching West Berlin. So the United States and its allies flew in food and fuel by airplane. This was called the Berlin Airlift. For almost a year, planes landed every day. Finally, the Soviets gave up the blockade. In 1961, the Soviet Union built a wall between East and West Berlin. It was called the Berlin Wall. It stopped people from escaping from east to west. Families were split. Some people tried to climb over or dig under the wall. Many were caught. Some even died trying. The wall became a symbol of the Cold War. The Cold War wasn't just in Europe. It spread around the world. In 1950, a war began in Korea. The northern part was supported by the Soviet Union and China. The southern part was helped by the United States. The Korean War lasted 3 years. In the end, the country stayed divided, and it still is today. In 1957, the Soviet Union sent a satellite called Sputnik into space. It was the first man-made object to orbit Earth. People in the United States were shocked. They didn't want to fall behind, so they started spending more money on science and space programs. This was the start of the space race. In 1969, the United States landed the first men on the moon. It was a big victory in the Cold War. One of the most dangerous moments came in 1962. The Soviet Union was putting nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from the U.S. This was called the Cuban Missile Crisis. For 13 days, people worried that a nuclear war might happen. In the end, the Soviet Union agreed to take the missiles out of Cuba. The United States promised not to attack Cuba. The world breathed a sigh of relief. During the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union built more and more nuclear weapons. People were afraid of what would happen if there was a war. Some families even built shelters underground in case of an attack. In the 1980s, a new leader came to power in the Soviet Union. His name was Mikhail Gorbachev. He wanted to make changes. He let people speak more freely and started to open the Soviet economy. These changes were called glasnost and perestroika. Gorbachev also worked with U.S. President Ronald Reagan to reduce the number of nuclear weapons. In 1989, something amazing happened. People in Eastern Europe began to demand more freedom. In country after country, communist governments started to fall. That same year, the Berlin Wall came down. Families and friends were reunited. People celebrated in the streets. In 1991, the Soviet Union broke apart into many smaller countries. The Cold War was over. The United States had won, but many people were just happy that the world was safer. There had been no big war between the two sides, but the fear and tension had lasted for almost 50 years. Even though the Cold War ended, its effects are still felt today. Some of the countries that were part of the Soviet Union still struggle with freedom and peace. The Cold War taught the world how dangerous it can be when countries do not trust each other. It also showed how powerful people can be when they stand up for freedom.